we've made some connections from our microphones to our channels, and we've labelled up those mics so that when we bring the channels on the surface, they're easy to identify. The last thing we will want to do in the signal list is decide whether we're using mono or stereo channels, depending on the connections we're making. So in our setup here, we have 8 mono mics coming into the first 8 channels. And then I'm going to use some stereo playback sources, which are coming from our MADI inputs over here. So I can select our MADI interface, select the signal, and make the connections. And when we're in step mode, we can make multiple connections very quickly. But as you can see, these are at the moment mono signals coming into mono channels. When you're dealing with the signal routing, everything is always dealt with in a mono fashion like this. But when we put the channel on the surface, we don't really want to deal with 2 independent faders. So for inputs 9 and 10 and 11, 12, 13, 14 and so on, I'm going to right click and choose the stereo channel option. And as soon as I make a pair of channels stereo, you'll see that you have green and red circles here indicating the stereo pair. You can make any odd-even pair of channels into a stereo channel. And this means when we bring this onto the control surface, it'll be controlled from one single fader. The other options I have at this stage are also if I want to create a 5.1 channel, so surround. The console supports lots of different surround formats, anything up to an 8-channel format. And we set that as a global setting in the System Settings menu. Because I've already defined 5.1, if I had a 5.1 return coming from another source, then if I click here on input 17 and select surround, you will see that this automatically defines the next 6 channels in the list to be a 5.1 processing channel with left, right, centre, LFE, surround left and surround right channels. The difference between stereo and surround channels is that, again, I really want one fader on the surface to control it. And if we right click on this 5.1 input channel, I will see a piece of information at the bottom here that says surround 3. That tells me that the master surround VCA channel is surround 3, and I'm going to use that later to bring that up on the control surface to give me control of the 5.1 channel from a single fader. When you're making surround channels, the channels are ordered in blocks of 8. So if we look in this surround column here, we can see the lights that are active tell me 17, 18 and so on. This is my 5.1 channel. If I want to make another 5.1 channel, then I would need to use inputs 25, 26 and so on. So you see the grey boxes here guide me as to where I can create the next block of surround channels. So that deals with our input channel routing and labelling. The other thing I probably would want to check at this stage is also how are my buses organised. So if I come over to the destinations and look at the bus out directory and look at the sums, I can see that the sum buses, which are also listed as mono buses, but they are already prepared. They are linked as a 5.1 sum master. Let's have a look at the subgroups. I can use the similar options. So right click on group 1. If I want to make some stereo subgroups, then it's a good idea to do it at this stage, because then when we bring those groups onto the surface later, they will automatically come under a single fader. Again, if you want to, you can add labels at this stage. So if those groups, for example, are controlling international sound or are a submaster for your music channels, then you could edit the label field if you wish.